Children, what are you doing?
I'm going to electrocute him.
I said no.
Please?
Imagine having a mom who listens.
Oh, all right.
A dad with a good aim.
Keep the ball, I have a whole bucket full.
And an uncle who returns from the dead. A family you'd be proud to call your own.
Bravo, Pugsley!
The Addams Family, rated PG-13. Now playing at theaters everywhere.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cinemarcade. This is the podcast about movies, video games, and all those sparks that fly when those worlds collide. My name is Steve Guntley. Who's joining me here today?
Why, it's me, J-Ban. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
What? She was just chewing on some gum.
No, that was my impression of Gomez macking on Morticia. Mwah, mwah,
Mwah,
mwah.
mwah. Oh, did you do Foley for the movie? That's pretty good.
Foley
That was
for
really
the
good. And who else is joining us today?
Hi, hello, it's Justin.
Hello, Justin. Justin, people can't see him, but he is covered head to toe in hair. And yeah, he's speaking more clearly than usual. Usually it's a me, 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 me
Yeah,
thing,
look,
yeah,
that's me before I have a Snickers.
Well, I'm excited today because we are talking about The Addams Family. That's right. We are starting a whole new two-part miniseries. They've all been two-parters so far. We're going to have longer ones down the line. But now, I don't know about you guys. I don't know how you've been feeling lately. I don't know where you've been at. Maybe it's just me, like, approaching middle age. But lately, I've just been feeling creepy and kooky altogether. Altogether ooky, I have to say. I've been feeling a little ooky, and I'm glad to watch this movie and really feel seen.
Is it
really feel
because the
understood.
doors out your living room to the balcony are into somebody's bedroom window?
I mean, that does feel pretty ooky, yeah, but, you know, I choose not to look. Yeah.
Your dog was hardcore dogging him.
I really think the dog just discovered her own reflection and was trying to engage in conversation with herself. She's not bright, but, you know, we can't hold that against her.
But she's real cute.
But you know what else is real cute and is real bright is the Addams Family movie. This movie came out November 22nd, 1991. It was directed by Barry Sonnenfeld and written by Carolyn Thompson and Larry Wilson. And it stars Angelica Houston, Raul Julia, Christopher Lloyd, Dan Hedaya, Elizabeth Wilson, Christina Ricci, Jimmy Workman, Carl Strucken, Judith Molina, and Dana Ivey. Now, for all the kind of gothy, like weird trappings of this series, this has been one of the most weirdly enduring series in American pop culture. Like, this started as a comic strip in the New Yorker in 1938. All right, and it's still kicking. It is still it is the most popular show on Netflix is based on the Addams Family. So like, this is a license that has some legs. It was written by a guy named Charles Addams, appropriately enough. Yeah, in 1938 they first appeared in the New Yorker. Those comic strips ran all the way until 1964. And then they started a TV series that lasted for 2 seasons, but it was really like iconic. Like, everybody knows the theme song to that TV show, even though I'd be surprised if any of us have seen an episode. I don't think I've ever seen it in a whole episode.
I've saw episodes when they were like on reruns.
Okay, yeah, like Nick at Night stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot except for Morticia and Gomez macking on each other.
That's been a consistent, yeah.
And I really loved Cousin It. I remember loving Cousin It.
I mean, he's kind of a breakout character in the movies too. Like, just they use him very sparingly, but he's a nice little spice that they break out when they want to get a little more interesting. The show, yeah, it ended in 1966, but it was revived in 1977. They had a TV movie, and in the meantime, there were like a couple attempts at an animated shows. They crossed over with Scooby-Doo a couple of times, and then the Addams Family largely sat out the 80s until this movie got made in 1991. Now, this is definitely a movie that was really major in my childhood. I mean, J-Man, you're about the same age as me. Do you remember? There was like there was like a legit like Addams Family fever for a little bit.
There definitely was.
I mean, so many like Happy Meal tie-ins and like toys and games and everything like that. Like this was suddenly a really hot property. And you look at it now and you're just like, that how cool is it that this really took off? Like that this was such a huge hit, because it's very weird. It's really dark, but it's exuberant and it's hilarious and it's just really inventive. It's a movie I have a ton of fun with. I do want to shout this out. First of all, apparently there's a common misconception that this is a Tim Burton film.
Really?
Which, like, I get, but also, like, it's diminishing the impact of Barry Sonnenfeld in his film debut. He was a cinematographer for a couple years. He worked with the Coen brothers on, like, Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, all beautifully shot movies. And he also worked on things like When Harry Met Sally and Misery and Big. Like, so he's a really good cinematographer. This was his first film. It made it big. And then he had this kind of like brief little miracle run in the 90s. He had this one very forgettable romantic comedy with Michael J. Fox called For Love or Money, which we won't hold against him. But between Addams Family, after that, it's Addams Family Values, which we will talk about next week. It's Get Shorty, which I love. I think that's such a solid
I've never
little,
seen Get Shorty.
really fun, solid little crime show business satire. And then there's Men in Black in 1997. Men in Black, a pretty goddamn perfect blockbuster, like a tight 97-minute, fun, funny movie. We will talk about that down the line.
Welcome to Earth.
Well, that's Independence Day. How dare you? How dare you? You can't. They're not trying to welcome people to Earth. They're trying to police the people who are coming in. But unfortunately, that seemed to kind of be the end of Barry Sonnenfeld, because after that, I don't know what happened. He just seemed to like lose it completely. His follow-up film, which was a huge budget, like huge spectacle movie befitting his status and Will Smith's status, was Wild Wild West.
I have a big weakness for Wild Wild
Look,
West.
I kind of do too.
Oh my God.
I enjoy
really?
that movie.
Okay, I cannot defend that movie. I cannot. I have a hard time with that one.
I don't know whether or not as an adult watching it I would have a different opinion, but I just remember I really love, I've always loved Klein. Like,
sure.
And I love Will Smith and I love Selma Hayek. And it's just so, and I love the steampunk aesthetic. We'll know when, are we going to watch it on the show?
Yeah, we get a game. Yeah.
So we'll figure out whether or not it holds up, but
I think you'll be surprised at how racist that movie is. Maybe you won't be surprised. I don't know, but that makes it a little uncomfortable for me. The script I think is just bad on that movie. Like, again, I agree. Like Kevin Kline, Will Smith, they have great chemistry in that movie, but whoo boy, that script is really rough. But yeah, his follow-up films to that, Men in Black 2, which is just like a nothing movie. He had like RV with Robin Williams. He had Big Trouble with Tim Allen. His most recent film, the last movie that he made, if you want to talk about ill-conceived, this was a kids film with Kevin Spacey called 9 Lives, about Kevin Spacey getting turned into a cat. So that's a movie that's probably aged like milk. You really don't want to go
karma
back.
at that point?
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm refusing to watch that movie or engage with it at all. Yeah, I mean, I hope he like pulls out of the slump and has kind of like a late career resurgence, because he really was like a pretty great filmmaker for a couple of years there. He's good at making these incredibly efficient, really fun blockbuster movies that like they're not going to take up too much of your time. They're going to come out, and you're going to have a great time.
Stuff like that always makes me wonder, like, is it them that changed, or was there like a piece of the recipe that's missing? Like, for instance, the Lucas and editing,
right?
And really anybody around George Lucas saying, "Hey, this sounds bad. Let's do this differently."
Yeah.
Is there like somebody that was a part of his crew or close to him that moved on to other things?
I think it's really hard to stay relevant. I feel like the people hit their zeitgeist and then they don't change.
No.
They don't evolve. And I think that's one of the reasons why people like Tim Burton have such a career and Wes Anderson have such a career, is because they have their own style versus something for the zeitgeist. Because Tim Burton's Batman versus Big Fish,
Yeah.
they're both aesthetically Tim Burton movies, but they're both different movies for different time periods.
Yeah, he was really good at adapting his style.
Kind of like that time period where you were watching a movie and there was a lot of big fiery explosions and you were like, is this directed by Michael Bay?
Right.
And then it was, and you were like,
there you go.
This makes a lot of sense.
Really big, well-shot explosion. You can guess it's a Bay. I mean, speaking of Tim Burton, I really do think like he was not involved with this movie, but I really do think this movie was riding a little bit of the Burton wave at this point because he was kind of hitting his career peaks. He'd had Beetlejuice was a huge hit.
I don't know if it's Tim Burton, though, but like the time period, goth was certainly in.
That's kind of the thing.
So it was edgy, like Winona Ryder dressing up as like this gorgeous like goth fairy child. Was like the epitome of fashion at the time period.
Yeah, there was definitely an affinity at this time for these kind of like darker gothic comedies, you know. So I think this was probably greenlit on the goodwill that like movies like Edward Scissorhands and even the original Batman had kind of generated. It's like, okay, so cool weirdos are in, like weird nerds who are going to make interesting movies like this. Those are in right now. So why not? Let's bring back the Addams Family. And I mean, I don't know if this is the beginning of the wave of trying to revive like old TV shows into movies. There was a nice little run of those in the 90s, like the Brady Bunch movie and My Favorite Martian and Leave It to Beaver, a bunch of things like that. But I think a lot of that is built off the success of this. This was a $30 million movie that made $200 million at the U.S. box office. This was a runaway, like late in the year hit. And critics were kind of dismissive of this movie at first, which I don't get. I think they mostly would probably go back and eat their words about that now. But I mean, I think so much of this is hinged on this incredible cast that they've put together for this movie. Like absolutely perfect casting.
Angelica Houston as Morticia Addams. Oh my God.
Iconic. So iconic.
So I read that it was something that they didn't like the shape of her eyes, so that they taped her eyes back so that she had like this, and so it was very painful and it went under her wig, and that she had to like have a break at lunchtime, otherwise she would get terrible headaches. And I'm just like, Angelica Houston did not need that. She looks great as is.
They kind of put her through the ringer because you notice she doesn't really move a lot as this character, and that's because the dress that they have her in is so ridiculously confining that she can't really move. But they do this cool trick with her that I watched this movie a dozen times as a kid and didn't really notice it until recent years. But they illuminate her eyes like in every shot. Like she's in shadow except for like a bar of light across her eyes, and that's how she's always lit, no matter who else is in the scene. I think that's a really cool choice. Raul Julia, who is absolutely incredible as Gomez. He's a classically trained theatrical actor, and we lost him sadly a couple years after this. I believe he died of cancer in 1994 or something like that. So this was kind of a big career moment for him that would sadly be kind of short-lived. But he's incredible.
He's a star in it. He's just so amazing. He brings this energy to Gomez that I don't know if you've seen the Wednesday series. Like
no,
it's
the
guy,
Luis Guzman now, right?
He doesn't do it for me.
Okay,
like Gomez is supposed to be debonair and dashing, and Luis Guzman just doesn't do it. Like,
well, I mean, I haven't seen Wednesday at all, but I will say like the original drawing of Gomez and like the portrayal of him in most of the films is as a short and squat and kind of ugly guy who's just hugely confident. And I think Raul Julia brings the dashing element to it, but that works so well because he and Morticia, their energy together is just like, I mean, hashtag couples goals, you know, like that's like, they are so horny for each other 24/7. They're in complete accord. They have found their other half. And I mean, that's kind of the amazing thing about the Addams Family just as a series. Like, you know, it started as kind of this dark parody of the nuclear family, you know, like that, especially in the 1930s, like this nuclear family model was really being drilled into you. So he's like, okay, well, what if we have this nuclear family that is like they embrace everything that we're not supposed to embrace. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're dark and they're weird and they like bugs and spooky things but they're still
They keep arsenic in the house
they do.
and cyanide.
They're still extremely loving and extremely happy. The whole family has just absolutely found their thing. They embrace it and they really don't give a shit what the rest of the world thinks about them.
That thing was interesting to me because I didn't have exposure to this movie. This is the first time I'd ever seen it.
Yeah.
But I'd always heard of like Wednesday Addams portrayed as like this dark, depressing figure, but the portrayal is not depressing. The portrayal is like there is tinges of like excitement in various moments. It's just always in weird things. I say weird things, but like
Yeah.
unusual things, like being really into sword fights and death.
I mean,
like morbid satisfaction or morbid fascinations, as opposed to like just being a depressing Debbie Downer all the time.
Well, and I think the chemistry of the cast together is what brings this movie, because like everyone can be individually cast really well, which they were, but like they feel like a family.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, again, I'm not the biggest fan of the hit Wednesday show, is because they take Wednesday out of her family and they put her in a boarding school, and it's just like, for me, the Addams Family was all about the family, like the family.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting coming back and watching this after like such a long time, because I'm just like, I remember, maybe I'm mixing it up with Addams Family Values, but I remember Wednesday having a bigger part. Like she definitely like rocks her parts of the movie, but Morticia and Gomez and Fester are the stars of this movie, and definitely the children are the supporting cast.
I mean,
Yeah.
this was a huge breakout for Christina Ricci, who I think is perfect in the part. And Wednesday is just a wonderful character because she is just she discovered her happiness, and that is depression. Like depression is the thing that makes her happiest in the world. Like contradictory as that is, that's just how it works.
It's like when you look at the family, it actually is a like all the relationships are very healthy. They're a good family, just interested in really unusual things.
Yeah, I mean, and the movie delves so much deeper and darker than the TV show or the comic strips ever did, which of course they have that freedom to do. I mean, there's a line that kills me every time, and I'm always like, I can't believe they got away with that. They're talking about Fester, and they're like, kind to animals, so good with children. And Gomez immediately says, they never proved anything. Because that was always the joke about Uncle Fester, is that he gives off like child molester energy.
Oh, no.
And it's like, oh my God, that is so crazy dark. I mean,
That is pretty dark.
Christopher Lloyd as the Fester part 2 is incredible because he is not that body type.
Disappears into that role.
Absolutely. He is a tall, lean man who they put in this bodysuit to make him like hunched and short and bald. And he performs every line like he's choking on something.
I saw Addams Family Values in the last year, like recent,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is crazy for me.
Yeah.
One of my roommates was watching it or something. I can't remember. But
Because they're good people and they're treating you well. Yes.
when you said that Christopher Lloyd was in this movie last week at the end, I was like, oh my God,
Where?
Christopher Lloyd is Fester.
Yeah.
I would never look at Fester and go, that's Christopher Lloyd. But when you said Christopher Lloyd was in it, I was like, that is him.
Yeah.
He just, absolutely buries himself in there.
And he brings this vulnerability to this sort of like uncouth character, that you do root for Fester or Gordon masquerading as Fester, because his mom is so unlikable, and just like the real villain of the movie. And I love the line where Mortician's like listing the defects in her character, and it's like, we could have been such good friends.
Yes. I mean, that's so good. And I mean, that whole subplot is it's fun, and that kind of like drives the plot to a large degree is this imposter, quote unquote, Fester who's trying to infiltrate the family. But spoiler alert, he does turn out to be the actual real Fester who disappeared a long time ago and has lost his memories.
Have you heard about the story behind that? About
No.
they had Christina Ricci, the 10-year-old Christina Ricci, go to the director and say, because all the cast thought that Fester should be real Fester in the end. So they gave Christina Ricci to go to the director to tell him that the whole cast thought that.
That's cute.
It's both cute, but you're like putting this on this little girl. You're
Yeah.
just like, it's such a weird thing to
It's
do.
buttering
A little
up the
manipulative.
director. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, you know.
Well, I guess you're like, he's not going to yell at a little girl, but like if
No.
like an adult actor is like, hey, you know, you've written it this one way and we don't like it.
Yeah.
I think it definitely, because spoilers for the movie, I had seen the second one and I was like, well, that's the guy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? Interesting. So the real one comes back,
Yeah,
and then it
right.
was like, okay, yeah, the real one comes back.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, there's such an interesting like presentation of the world of the Addams Family. It's not just that it's creepy and gothic, it's that everybody is seemingly either a cartoon character or immortal. You
Yeah.
know, like the Addams can't really die or they can't really feel pain because maybe it's just because they enjoy it too much.
So
They only feel joy.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. I think this movie has has a really great opening where they have the Christmas carolers singing and then them like about to be poured what I assume is hot oil or
Yeah.
The hot, like boiling water on them or,
or
something. I was like,
something,
what?
or a potion or something, and you're just like, that was such a like, this is the Addams Family, welcome, buckle up and ride.
Yeah.
This is gonna be it.
Yeah, and the fact that they were doing it happily as a family, you're like, oh, yeah, all right. I mean, it is your property.
It's a great way to introduce us to the characters and just like it really like that's all we need to know. It's like we have this row of smiling, happy normies who are just like singing their song. They're beautifully harmonizing. Everything sounds great. And then these creepy weirdos are delighting and dumping that. That's everything you need to know. That's all you need.
I really enjoyed Gordon / Fester's journey.
Yeah.
Because him coming in and being like all excited, like I want money, yeah, let's do this. And then by like the halfway point of the movie, like the cracks start showing, and he's like, "Oh, these kids, I like hanging out with these kids."
Yeah.
like just the way he was similar to them, and so he was fitting in, even though he didn't. He was to him a separate person.
I mean, the scene where they're performing the Shakespeare was
Yeah.
absolutely notorious on the schoolyard before I got to see this movie. Like, I'm amazed my parents let me see this as young as I did. Like, I think I got to see it when it first came on VHS in like 92 or whatever. And that scene, even though it's established that this is fake blood, you're still spraying gore off of children like all over the stage, all over the crowd. And it's just like, for a PG-13 movie, I'm just like, this is amazing that they're getting away with this.
There's a great episode of Bob's Burgers where something very similar happens on a Thanksgiving. With the Thanksgiving turkey episode.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen that episode.
It's so great. They get real turkey innards and blood, and they like spray and they explode and spray the audience. I shouldn't remember the name of the episode, but it's out there.
I mean,
and-
the Thanksgiving episodes of Bob's Burgers are always unbelievable because he just loses his mind
But I
every
always
year.
thought it was so smart that they were doing an homage to the Addams Family.
Yeah.
Because it's very clear.
It's one of those scenes that, like, I remember seeing it as a kid and thinking it was a dream or that this couldn't possibly be real and that I'm not allowed to watch this. Like, because even then I recognized that it was funny. Like, I recognize, like, it didn't scare me or upset me or anything like that. Like my parents were worried it might, but I just had this surreal disconnect from it. I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm allowed to be watching this right now. Like, this is crazy.
I was, the whole time that was happening, I was just brainstorming, like, where is it all coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're in one single, like, they do cut away and cut back. However, each time they do that, a lot of blood comes out, and you're like, is this like, are they wearing like a blood backpack or something behind them?
Yeah.
With like a pump that is just keeping the pressure going?
Or like a hose up their leg or
Yeah,
something.
it is high pressure sustained.
And I mean,
sprays.
the way this movie is set up, it's entirely possible that that's just their blood because the kids can't die. Like none of them can die. They spend their free time torturing each other for fun.
They're
and,
very
like, electrocuting
crafty
each other.
too.
Yeah,
Like the whole family has hobbies.
yeah, they do. They live in their
They're
passions.
a happy family that has hobbies.
What? I was about to ask what they do for a living, but I guess they have family
They
riches.
just have
riches,
family
yeah.
wealth that you. It's implied that it's like war spoils or like gained from
We
witchcraft.
had Spanish doubloons, so
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably got a lot in the Inquisition or something like that.
So here's my question: are they vampires?
they're not vampires.
I mean, they go out at
They
in
go
the
in the
night, but
daytime.
they're
Yeah, I
not
don't think they
vampires.
are.
but
Witches, maybe. They've got all kinds. I mean, it's implied that Gomez is a multiple serial killer. So, like, you know, I think they're just generally. This movie makes them more evil than the TV show or the cartoons did, but it's still like a pleasant, playful evil. Like they're really nice to everybody.
they're really nice.
They're very
I mean,
genteel. They're very well bred.
That is how serial killers usually work.
Yeah, yeah.
They're often very good with people.
But there is just something inspiring about how the Addamses are just completely incapable of pretending to be anything else. Like they are so fully themselves, and they're so happy in the being fully themselves, and they have found their clan, and they're really like thriving, and that's always been kind of inspiring, I think, you know.
Well, and I think it as a person who I was friends with a lot of goth kids, and I dressed goth.
Sure.
There's a lot that goes into identifying yourself goth that I never really felt was aligned with who I was.
Yeah.
But I was like a gothy anime kid who wore snakeskin pleather pants when I was 13 to gym class.
Those are difficult clothes to run in gym.
They are difficult clothes to run in gym.
Can you just say like, sorry, can't do it today. Snakeskin. Yeah.
You didn't have to. I had
Can't
to wear.
change out of these.
I had a uniform I had to put on for gym.
You had
really?
a uniform for gym?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, we did not have a uniform.
And the worst part was that it was a t-shirt and shorts. And I grew up in the upper Midwest. That was not appropriate a lot of the year because it was real cold.
Oh, because you had to do like outdoor.
Yeah.
track
Oh, we
stuff?
had
Okay.
a full. The football field had a track around it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we had a full like half-mile track, and because weirdly enough, it was a poor school for the relatively poor school, but we had like really good facilities because we had a rich family in town that gave a lot of money. But anyway,
Perfect.
we would be like,
Addamses?
yeah, we would be like full like hoodies and stuff, and then just shorts running outside in like November, and we're like, wait, when do we switch over to doing stuff inside the rest of the year?
I mean-
Can we please do that now?
I
It's
grew up
about to snow.
I grew up in the Rocky Mountains, but I got around all of that by literally being so bad at gym that my teachers just took pity on me. I remember in freshman year, I signed up for a weight training class that I immediately tuned out of, and I spent most of my time sitting on a weight bench reading Calvin and Hobbes comics. I got a B.
And this was
My teacher didn't care. He's just like, all right, well, you're here, you
friends.
know.
This was in the days before having an iPod was
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I just had to,
You
yeah.
had actual newspaper clippings.
I had the combined, like the trade paperbacks, like the combined a
Okay,
bunch.
like
I
the
had
anthology
like,
or whatever.
yeah, I had all of those.
I thought it was so interesting when you see the Addams Family in real world situations.
Yeah.
Like for example, the auction, and they're like macking on each other, like driving up the cost of something that they themselves gave away, and like being, because I feel like the section that they lose their fortune, and they're trying to like raise money, and and Thing really holds this thing together.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my pun, and
that was good.
I'm sticking by it. But
He really had his finger on the pulse.
Finger-
Yeah, you could say.
he really lent a hand.
I mean, the Thing special effects are pretty amazing for the time. Like, I think they hold up.
I was looking. I didn't pay as much attention to it later on in the movie, but early in the movie I did, and it was interesting if you paid attention to each scene. How some scenes it would have reflection and a shadow, and then the next scene it would just have reflection, no shadow. And so it was definitely probably not something that they were like crazy used to doing.
Yeah. I
Like
think
obviously people did it, but there wasn't.
this was early green screen. They had a puppeteer named Christopher Hard doing all of the hand motions.
Yeah.
But Thing in the TV show just lived in a box, and it was clearly like a man inside a table, like reaching up through a box to like give people messages and stuff. But here they make him so dynamic, he gets to like just run around and crawl and everything. And again, it's just in the reality of this movie, everybody just sort of accepts Thing. Like nobody
Yeah.
really questions
Yeah.
it.
I loved the part where Thing shows up post them being cut off from their fortune. They're like in a motel or whatever.
Yeah.
And Thing shows up and starts doing like sign language, and it's just like rapid fire.
Then the pen doesn't
And-
work, and then he uses Morse code.
Yes.
Which is interesting because Thing doesn't have a gender, but we're all saying he.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of a masculine-looking hand, I guess.
But
yeah.
when he goes like, slow it down. I can't understand you when you stutter like that. And it's like,
It is very jarring seeing the Addamses outside of their natural environment when they're in this shitty motel, like watching Sally Jesse Raphael and calling into the show, selling Girl Scout. No, they don't sell cookies. They're selling poison lemonade. But yeah,
they're scaring Girl Scouts.
the little girl who plays the Girl Scout is going to come back in Values, and it's
Yeah.
going to
Okay.
be, and she was on Buffy for several years. Later on, she played Harmony on that show for a long time. There's a dog running around. All right, we'll
But yeah,
dog.
so something I wanted to talk about that so the chemistry between Gomez and Morticia is off the charts.
Yes.
But have you, like, other than the Addams Family, have we ever seen as healthy, loving relationships? Like, do we see? Because like, there's such this trope of like man and women hate each other.
Yeah.
And it's driven comedy since the Honeymooners and probably before that. But there's just like this in the sitcoms, left and right.
Yeah, I was about to say that's what pulled me away from so many sitcoms, is just looking at it and going, nobody's happy. No, this isn't healthy. Why are we doing this?
I'm weirdly obsessed with a video that's been circulating of Javier Bardem. Somebody asked him in Spanish and just said, what does it feel like to be one of the only men on earth who enjoys working with his wife? He just gives a little head shake and he just says, that question is in poor taste. Doesn't say anything else. Love that. Come on. Gotta love that. Gotta love the representation there.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
No, I just think it's like this showing of this couple who love each other is revolutionary, and still to this day we struggle to show loving relationships on screen.
And they're just so endlessly loving of each other that it's crazy.
But the sitcoms that I enjoyed were the ones, because my parents watched a lot of sitcoms. Like the few that I enjoyed were the ones where it was like King of Queens, where like they might have arguments, but it's all like like very clear that they like each other.
Yeah.
They're trying to make up to each other. They're trying, and it's not the sense of like, oh, I gotta, get flowers on my way home because I did this. But it's like, no, like I genuinely care, and I want to make sure that your feelings are good.
But Gomez and
it's
Morticia
so
are
rare.
just such an exaggeration too. They are just like wildly passionate about each other at every moment of their lives. Like there's never a disagreement. There's never a point where they're not like living for each other and just totally thirsty. And it's really fun to watch.
Well, and I think they're also thirsty for each other, but like when Gomez is having his crisis of faith like multiple times in the movie, Morticia does like has a talk to Fester.
Yeah.
She like cuddles him and she tries to get a job. She is being a good, supportive, significant other in a constructive way and not just a sickly, sweet way.
She gets a job reading to children.
Makes them think about getting burned alive. Yeah. Morticia is like, also like Angelica Houston plays her as somebody who is 10 steps ahead of everything. Like, she knows that Fester's not the real Fester long before anything, but she doesn't say anything because she is also an agent of chaos, and which is amazing.
She does say something. She takes him for a walk and points out all of the people who've wronged them and how they were murdered.
Yes.
It's like a very quick, like, look, if you fuck this up, we kill you.
I loved their cemetery.
Yes.
I loved their cemetery so much. It was such a cute cemetery, a really unique sculpture format, lots of half-naked ladies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's how I like my cemeteries. Am I right, fellas? No. Gross. Yeah, I'm not an Addams. I can't pull that off.
I'm gothy. I can pull it off.
There you go. Yeah, you wore snakeskin. Yeah, you're fine.
I don't like cemeteries enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
I used to have picnics in cemeteries when I was a teenager.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
We used to
have nighttime picnics with candles and everything.
Oh my god!
But we would get so distressed because we'd light the candles and then moths would start burning themselves on the candles, and then we'd put the candles out because we couldn't. It was like, stop killing yourselves, moths! Stop it!
I don't know if we would have been friends in high school, because if I was out after dark, it was because I was in the park with fake lightsabers having battles with my friends. So I don't know. I don't know if we would have gotten along. Maybe. Yeah. If you'd be willing to get big, weird welts on your arm from over exuberant lightsaber battles.
I started working when I was like 12 or 13, tutoring.
Okay.
And then I got a job at Burger King, and I spent all my money from my job taking fencing lessons.
Hey, my friend a couple years ago had a fencing birthday party. Like, we had a little station. It was a lot of fun. I'm bad at it.
It's so much fun. Definitely, like, I started fencing my senior year of high school, but it was real fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of fencing in this movie. Like, Gomez has a robust
and
sword collection.
Backflips,
and he flips it around. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, this movie is just, it's 93 minutes long, and it is just fun and inventive in every frame of it.
Yeah, I think the plot is a little lacking at times, but it's all fun.
But it's just all a vehicle for like these mile-a-minute gags. Like, there's a joke in pretty much every scene, and they almost all land. Like, I think it's all really still very funny. They get away with so much by embracing the darkness of it. I mean, again, to bring it back to Tim Burton, this is Carolyn Thompson and Larry Wilson were the team that wrote Beetlejuice and Ed Wood and a bunch of early Tim Burton movies. So, like, they have their finger on that pulse. Like, they understand kind of the,
Did you just
the
say Ed
creepy
Wood?
vibe. Ed Wood, yeah. One of my very favorite movies.
Is that a movie?
As a movie,
Oh.
It is a Tim Burton movie, 1994, starring Johnny Depp playing. It's a biopic about the worst director of all time, and it is a masterpiece.
I thought you were mispronouncing Edward for Edward
Oh, no. Yeah, Edward's. Yeah,
my bad. I'm uncultured.
Definitely check out Ed Wood. It's an unbelievable movie. But let's move on a little bit to the video game, because like we said, this movie was an unbelievable hit, like just absolutely runaway hit, and it was merchandised out the ass, which means we got a lot of video game content. Now, the games that we played today, not the first Addams Family video games. The first one was 1987's Fester's Quest, which is a top-down shooter from the makers of Gremlins 2 and the Batman original game.
Why?
It's a good question
that's what
to
Fester
ask.
does.
He
shoots things.
It's a good question to ask, because the series was pretty much dead at this point. Like, nobody really cared about this franchise. And the character in the game is based off of the Jackie Coogan representation of him in the TV show. Mm-hmm. So basically, this is just like a 30-year-old TV show that's being made into a video game for kids. And This game eventually became a big hit, like coasting off of the energy from this movie. Like, so like 4 years after the fact, it became a million seller on the NES.
Oh, wow, really?
It's a famously hard game. Like, it's kind of shitty, but it's also like there's something there. There's something there. It's kind of interesting. It's worth checking out. Fester's Quest.
I really hope the dog slurps are getting picked up by the mics right now as Rivet drinks all of the water available.
Rivet drinks with her entire body. Like, she throws her whole... I'm worried she's going to throw her neck out one of these days just by how hard she slurps. Rivet, that's enough. Thank you. We have to cut her off because she will like drink too much and then throw up on the floor. Yeah. Puppies are fun, everybody. Get a puppy.
So cute, though. Do it.
so-
Adopt a puppy.
Yes.
I thought it was so interesting.
Rescue a puppy.
Going back to the movie for a second, we
Yeah.
did talk about the fact that Orion Pictures created this movie, and then they sold it to Paramount, and they sold the international rights to Columbia, and they made no money off of this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like Orion made
As
no
far-
money or Paramount made no money off it?
No, Paramount made a ton because
Okay.
they had domestic rights.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think I'm pretty sure, I'm like 98% sure that Orion sold the rights, the international rights to Columbia.
Because I think Orion would have been going under around this time.
Yeah,
like
'cause,
they're
like,
back now. But,
yeah. What was so interesting because they had so many hits with like Silence of the Lambs, and but this to give away a winner. And do you know anything about whether or not the games were successful?
I think they were. Like, again, there was like a little bit of a merchandising bonanza for these games at the time. And these ones were actually fairly well received at the time. We played two different versions of it. We played the NES and we played the Super NES. These are side-scrolling hop and bop platformers where you play as Gomez. Your goal is to gather enough money that you can access different parts of the house and save individual members of your family. So we started with the NES one. Now, it should be said in both of these games, despite being having the movie license and being based kind of roughly on the plot of the movie, like to the degree that these games have a plot, it is based on like stuff from the movie. But the likenesses of Gomez is John Ashton from the original series. Like, so they have the likenesses from the original cast, but not from this movie, which is a little weird. But everything else here really is... It's kind of like an open world Mario, or like an early open world, because it's
like a side-scrolling Mario 64 almost.
It's non-linear, and you can kind of explore whatever room of the house at your leisure. But a lot of the elements that you see in both of these games are taken straight from Mario. Like, so you have a little cannon that spits cannonballs at you, and you have a little guy it's like a beetle that walks around the ground. He's got a spike on his back, and so it looks like a lot of kind of very lightly remastered versions of this.
But it looks good. The Super NES one looks really good.
It looks real good. I mean, look, the NES one game doesn't look bad.
Sometimes
for
it
its
looks bad.
Time, it
But,
doesn't look bad for its time. But
it's like some of the sprites are a little awkward.
Yeah. And the NES game is fine, but it was generally less engaging for me, and it's like
NES
kind of
game
punishing.
was super hard.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Like, instead of just one hit and you lose one heart or something like that, you'd like lose the health rapidly for like this extended period of time. Is like
Well, to be fair, that was because you kept laying down on the spikes.
Yeah,
You
well,
kept falling in spikes
this
and then crouching.
It's the Addams Family. I should be able to walk across spikes.
Yes, I agree. You should be able to catch yourself on fire or do whatever you want. They should do it like they made a series of Wario games where the gimmick of this was that Wario couldn't die. So you solve puzzles by doing damage to Wario, like you set him on fire and then make him run through a wooden wall, or like you do things like that. That could have been an approach for this game.
Was it Super Meat Boy?
Yeah, kind of. Well, Super Meat Boy, you could die
you could
a
die
lot.
in it,
Yeah,
but
you die very. Yeah.
Returning to the Super NES game, there are 1,000 of hidden rooms, hidden situations, like hidden like mysteries, and it's just so engaging, and there's so much gameplay and variety of gameplay. They have an ice level, which we all know it's pretty ace.
Yeah. Pretty ace ice. Yeah,
I
pretty ace ice.
would say it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. No, it's chill. It's chill. Yeah.
Would you say
yeah.
it's cool as ice?
Oh, if only that movie had a game. Oh my God, that'd be unbelievable. The Vanilla Ice movie. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It really is amazing how like the Super NES game just looks fantastic right from the get-go. You have a little opening animation of Thing like coming out of the box, and the sprite animation is really, really gorgeous. Like, and then it's even a little 3D effect as you like go inside the box, and then the game itself has kind of a cartoony vibe to it. Again, you look like a little John Ashton, but like you've got kind of a little toddler body, like you butt stomp on people and your little shoes go up in the air.
And there's such a variety of villains. There's like chefs, teapot. Like I was joking earlier that has a lot to do with Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
Beauty and the Beast's house, because there's just anthropomorphized
everything.
Cutlery.
Yeah,
and it was so much fun. And like I really am rather smitten with this game.
And the sound was also pretty good too.
Yeah,
there's a solid variety, and it was all like 8-bit versions of various stuff. I mean,
that
more than 8-bit.
That Addams Family theme is pretty iconic. I don't know if like younger people will immediately recognize that.
I think
theme
they will.
music,
I think
but
they
like,
do. I think it's in the zeitgeist.
If it's kind of a shave and a haircut thing, like if you go up to somebody and go like dun 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 dun, they'll have to snap. They have to snap immediately. Like, it's an impulse. Yeah.
Some of us can't snap.
You can't
so
snap?
we won't snap.
No, I can snap on every finger.
I can't whistle.
I didn't know how to whistle until I was like
kind
25.
of whistle.
Yeah.
Like I finally cracked it somehow then, and I'm not a strong whistler, but
My two front teeth have a bit of a gap.
Oh yeah,
because I'm missing some teeth, and I got braces, and we kind of fixed it all, but then I didn't wear my retainer.
Oh, that'll do it. That'll do it. I always this is a tangent, but I can never figure out how to do like the fingers in the mouth whistling. Like I don't know how people do that. That's crazy to me. It's a good thing I'm not a cowboy. But this yippee-ki-yay indeed. Yeah, I mean the Super NES one.
Wild West.
I was wiki wow wow. No,
we're transitioning to the Wild West episode.
Something before. Okay, I know sometimes I'm really bad about going back to the movie when we're talking about the game.
No, hey, it's
something
all
about the movie that I was like, oh my god, the early '90s, how they had dropped low key like rap hits, and they had an MC Hammer.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm going to have so much more to say about that when we talk about values next week, because that song's been stuck in my head all day long. Whoop, the Addams Family, there it is. Yeah, I'm going to be doing that all day.
It was like it completely out of like theme of the Addams Family to have rap throughout, and you're just like, what is this about? I
mean, again, so 90s. This was the moment that MC Hammer was at the height of his popularity, so naturally they get him to do that. And we used to be a proper country, and we used to end all of our movies with songs summarizing the movies we just watched. All right, like, come on, what the hell? We got to get that back. It is wild, and I still remember a lot of the lyrics to that song. They do what they want to do, say what they want. I'm not going to do it.
Do you think that's why Barbie's such a success?
Oh, right. They do have like the running commentary song in that. Yeah. I think that's the secret. I think we need to do that with everything. Oppenheimer should have had one. I'm just saying. Oh, he's dropping that bomb.
The musical.
No, it's I
mix Oppenheimer with Asteroid City and.
Oh, yeah. No, but I agree with you. I was very charmed by this game. It is also like the NES version. It is pretty punishingly difficult. We start with only 2 hearts, and like everything kind of hurts you, so those 2 hearts aren't going to stretch you for very long. You can get more hearts by defeating bosses, but again, we did not find this because we're bad at this game. We had to watch a walkthrough to see like
we were bad at both games.
We were bad at the NES game. We were all 3 of us were bad at the NES.
So bad at it.
Yeah.
The other one where we were making inroads but there's so many. But we decided to, instead of focusing on one room to get through the room, we're like, let's check out all of the rooms, and it's very exciting to be able to play a bunch of different levels at the start of a game.
Yeah.
I really love that. Like, I love that structure. We also, like, in watching the walkthrough, there are so many hidden rooms. And, like, there's a hidden room where you get, like, 33 lives.
Yes.
And it's just, you're like, what the fuck? And then they get a bunch of hearts, and you're like, how is this possible?
This was legitimately like somebody memorized everything of this game. And so when we play the game, we're trying to get like a good smattering sample of stuff to do. We're like seriously playing, but like if we're trying multiple times to get through one thing, we'll go, hey, let's try out this other thing. We'll get a peek at the variety, especially with a game like this where so many of it was open to start. You get to see a good amount of the game. You get to play with the mechanics.
Yeah, and we have limited time to kind of really dig into it, so it helps to see like what's coming up next.
Some of these things were like you had to look up a game guide to figure them out. It's like if you jump against this wall and push towards the wall, there's a secret hallway, but it's like at jump level.
Yeah.
So you're only getting in it if you actually know it's there. And then sometimes it was just like, you think this is a wall near the end of the level? No,
you fool.
It's a hallway.
I mean, it's kind of like what we were talking about with JR a couple weeks ago. It's just that, like, you know, when you're younger in the early 90s, like, you got one game. You got one game a year, and that had to tide you over, you know, unless you're, like, renting games all the time. This had to tide you over. So you get real good at these games. And I think this one, if you had this game as a kid, you probably were a lot happier than if you had the Roger Rabbit game, which, you know, is just kind of beating your head against the wall. But this one has so many different things to find and explore. And I think that's the right spirit of it, because that's the cool thing about the house in the movie is that it's got a million little hidden doors and like all that, a labyrinthine like area under the house where the vault is. Like, you could have a lot of fun with level design.
There's a lot of things to do to navigate the attic, which we didn't find.
No, we got to a game room, which is basically the danger room from X-Men with like blades spinning everywhere and like people throwing axes at you.
I will say, a lot of the themes of the rooms were not super relevant.
No,
They were
necessarily.
fun.
Yeah.
They were interesting, but they weren't super relevant.
Yeah.
At no point did they have to turn off grandma's oven.
Yeah.
By fighting through an elaborate range of monkeys in teacups, teapots, and what else was in that one?
Oh, the Killer Chef.
The Killer Chef.
I like that they kept the enemies like consistent from level
kettles.
to level.
Why
like,
was there so many chefs in that kitchen?
Yeah, it's a big kitchen,
big
and they're
kitchen.
little chefs. Like they're little ratatouilles.
They're the same
in
size
there.
as you.
Yeah, and he's a little guy. Gomez is a little guy compared to the rest of the house.
I mean, there was like, what, 12 chefs? That's a solid kitchen staff.
That's a pretty good staff, yeah. But hey, they're loaded, you know. That's kind of always the joke with them. They're these old money loaded like weirdos.
I feel like they didn't have a chef in the movie.
No, they didn't. They just had grandma cooking from a Grey's Anatomy book. Yeah, I mean,
I loved the dancing in the movie.
the mamushka.
Which if you finish the NES game, they have Morticia and Gomez waltzing disturbingly together.
Is there any other way?
With her having a giant creepy smile on her face. But yeah, I just thought the dancing was spectacular in the movie.
And that was a great way to open up the world too and see like, okay, it's not just like this little group of like 5 weirdos. There's a whole extended family of weirdos, and they're all similarly just like super happy people and just like ecstatic to be alive and ecstatic to be part of this tradition.
Do we know if the hair one was happy?
Yeah, cousin Ed. Yeah. I mean, they have great conversations.
Yeah, like he broke up a marriage, but like that marriage was breaking up.
Oh yeah, that needed to be broken up. Yeah. Dan Hedaya was not going to live very long.
Or did he break it up, or did he die?
He died.
Well, he was put in the coffin while still alive.
Oh, yeah, they buried him alive. Yeah, they buried them both alive. Also, Dan Hedaya, maybe the one man hairier in real life than Cousin It. So, like, she was prepared. Like, it was an easy transition, like, to go from one extremely hairy man to another one. So, yeah, it worked out well for her. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of about all I have to say on this game. Like, I had a pleasant time with this game. I kind of wanted to go back and get better at it. And we learned from watching the walkthrough that there's a sword that's going to make your life a whole lot easier. Like, get the sword, or like get the baseballs or whatever. Like, there's things that you can do to make your life a little easier. And if we had the 15 years or whatever it took for the YouTube guy to get that good at it, then I would have embraced it a little bit more.
Like we all have heard our elders say,
yes,
when there's a wall, there's a way.
Oh my God, you're rhyming it now too. You're bringing him back, and then you're rhyming it. Oh, beautiful. Well, let's move on to our rankings for the Addams Family. Is this a good movie, good game, a bad movie, bad game, or does it fall somewhere in between? J-Ben, let's start with you.
Good movie. Good to borderline great, especially for children. I think this is one of those PG-13s that's perfectly appropriate for children.
Especially if you have weird children.
Yeah. Which I was a weird child.
Me too.
I think the NES game is bad, and I think the Super NES game is spectacular. I think it's like spectacular. Like I had so much. Like we play a lot of games, and very rarely do I like want to be like, oh my god, I just want to play this game for hours.
You did, yeah. You kept saying like, oh no, I want to keep playing. We had our usual point where we're like, all right, well, should we move on and record? You're like, no, I want to keep playing this, and you do not like jumping.
No, I don't.
This
like
is all
jumping.
But yeah, I'm really happy you were getting into it. I think I'm going good movie, good game as well. I had a really good. I mean, look, this movie is timeless. I could watch it at any time of the day or night, like, and just put it on and put it in the background. It'll make me happy. And this game was a pleasant surprise. Yeah, I would say the NES one is not really the way to go. And just be prepared if you're playing the SNES version for a pretty steep difficulty curve, at least at the beginning. But
You have to be patient.
you gotta be patient. You have to be patient with a lot of these old games.
Curious. You've gotta try to find the hidden stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say good movie, good game for the SNES. I don't think I liked the movie quite as much as y'all did, but I still thought it was a good movie.
Okay.
And I definitely didn't like the SNES game as much as J-Ban did, but I still thought it was an alright game.
Yeah.
If this was a game at the time that you had purchased, you were probably going to be okay with that.
I think so. I think, yeah.
If you got it now, you'd probably, if you were interested, still play it a bit.
Yeah.
As opposed to many of the NES games we've played and the SNES games we've played, where you would probably put it down real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are going to be continuing our Addams Family miniseries next week by talking about the sequel. That's 1993's Addams Family Values, which also has a Super Nintendo game. And I am so excited to be talking about that one. We're going to have our friend Hayato on to talk about that movie with us, and we're going to put in some quality time with that game, and I'm very eager to discuss it. So thank you, everybody, for listening. You can always send us mail at cinemarcadepodcast@gmail.com. Also, I'm going to toss out a plug. Check out my other podcasts, Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks. I think around the time this comes out, we're going to have a great interview with a New York Times bestselling author Grady Hendrix, who came on to talk about.
Awesome. I've read a couple of his books.
He's great. He's so nice, and he came on to talk about a really insane movie with us, which was a lot of fun. And we've got a bunch of other really exciting guests coming up throughout all of October, which is just my time to thrive. I love all of October. I'm going to get real excited about it. So thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you next week for Addams Family Values. Dun 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 dun. There it is.